This is interesting as well. 33team.com, so former NFL executives, power rankings for each team's running back room. They go 49ers 1, Lions 2, Dolphins 3. Then in the middle of the pack, Jaguars 15, Saints 16, and Browns 17. Browns arguably the hardest team to rank on this list due to Nick Chubb's health. If he were fully healthy, Browns would easily be inside the top 5. Deontay Foreman, Jerome Ford are capable runners. Look for Foreman to be the lead back, with Chubb likely out for the first month of the season, and Ford to provide some speed and juice. The other thing that makes it kind of tough is you don't know who your tackles are. The run game, is dependent on that. We've already talked about, you know, is Jedrick Wills going to be ready? Is Jack Conklin going to be ready? There are a lot of questions, and you need some answers pretty quickly.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you isolate that ranking to the running backs alone, I think it's perfectly reasonable considering the injury that Nick Chubb is coming off of. It's not some sort of sprain. It's not just an ACL tear. I mean, that was an awful injury that you hope he recovers fully from because he's such a great player. And the second time that he's had to deal with it, you remember he had to do it once before back in Georgia. So I completely understand the question marks regarding it. They would certainly, if Chubb was healthy, be in at least the top 6 or 7. And you make a good point about the tackles too, where this offense is about running off tackles, about getting that outside zone scheme going, much like a Kyle Shanahan or a Sean McVay, right? And on the interior, they're solid, right? You still have two great guards in Teller, Wyatt Teller inside. You've got Ethan Posich at center. They've got a really good interior. The tackles are a question. But as far as the backs go, look, I think it hit the nail on the head with Jerome Ford and Deontay Foreman being capable guys who can get you that 4 yards of carry. But Nick Chubb's health is really the X factor in all of it.
Yeah, Foreman's a guy that, he had the injury early in camp, has come back, played pretty well. When he's healthy, capable's really good. It seems like teams don't. If you give him 16 carries, there's a stat. 16 carries equals like 82 or 83 yards. That's really good production.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And again, capable backs can succeed behind a really good offensive line. And so that always gives you the floor for your running game. There's several teams in the league who have great running backs, but not a sufficient enough offensive line to give them that production. I think we saw something like that with Saquon Barkley and the Giants last year, where you go, we know Saquon's good, but man, they just don't block anybody. Or Travis Etienne with the Jaguars. The Browns never have that problem. So I have no doubts that Ford and Foreman can produce to some extent. It's just that Nick Chubb gives you that extra dimension, right, of making people miss and making big runs and grinding through for first downs. He's a special player when he's healthy, right? And I think that's what you hope for in your starting back and your superstar back, is that he's special, and hopefully he's healthy enough to still be special.
And you know what? They haven't said much about him, so it'll be interesting next week when you find out. If he's on the PUP list, it's one thing. If he's not, that means he's closer. He's going to play sooner rather than later.
Absolutely. I mean, you would hope so, that he doesn't miss more than maybe a couple of weeks, or if he's. I would be surprised if he's ready by week 1 with the way that injury was. But look, in maybe the most physical division, maybe the toughest division in football, it's always a theme with when you talk about especially the Steelers and the Ravens, and even some other physical teams in the AFC. You have to be able to run the ball. You have to be able to have that balance. You have to be able to grind through, obviously, cold weather games in Cleveland. And it's kind of how their team is built, right, with defense and winning low-scoring games and running the ball, despite having Deshaun Watson in there. But they're still built around the defense and the running game, and Chubb has to be a huge part of that, hopefully sooner than later.